Hello Marin, thanks for being with us today. Maybe can you quickly present yourself? What is basically your background? How did you get into the digital humanities field?
Okay, I was an historian before, at the beginning of the late 20th century. And then I decided to go to digital humanities. It was not this name at this time, because I wanted to make the knowledge more widely spread. So scholarly knowledge more widely spread. So I tried to set up a new portal called revue.org, which means journals.org, in 1999. And I was a student at this time in Avignon, and it started with only 2 journals, and it was beginning to make the knowledge more accessible, because I was in a university which was one of the smallest in France, and one of the smallest library too. So as a student, I was very upset of not having access to all the knowledge I needed to study history. So when I went to Paris to make further studies, I discovered so big libraries, so many books freely accessible to students, that when I came back to Avignon, I decided that the web was an opportunity to change this.
Excellent, excellent. So you had the idea that maybe there was something new starting where that would really help, like the small university or the university that has less access to knowledge, and you wanted to contribute to that.
Yes, and I was convinced that it was not only for universities, it was for the whole society. When I was in Paris, young students, I mean, on the first degree of the courses, were not allowed to go to the library because it was too small. So you needed to be at a master level to have access to the Sorbonne library. So it was obvious that if even students had no place, no room in the library, I would journalists, teachers, and people in the suburbs, and everybody who pays taxes would not have access to these books and to this knowledge. And I was convinced that it was very important, and the web was a big opportunity. It was very impressive to see, oh, it's possible now to give access to everybody to the contents. In fact, it was more easy to say than to do, but the previous idea is still there.
Okay. And so you started revue.org with, what, 2 journals initially?
Yes, 2 journals. I was involved in 2 journals as a researcher, as a scholar. And so I said to them, why not being online? They said, okay, you create the website. Oh, sorry, it's my job now. So I created a first one, and then another one. And then, because I was involved in both journals, and then it was obvious that every journal would have the same issue.
So when you say it was obvious, I mean that's an interesting move, because I think it's a move from the digital humanities. I mean, you do with a couple of examples, and then you feel you have a kind of general solution to a general problem.
Exactly. So there was a local problem for 2 journals of visibility, and I decided that it was I thought it was a general problem, and that we had to scale the solution. So not only not to provide a solution for 2 or for 3 projects, but for thousands. So I decided to buy revue.org, which means journals with a S, which means more than 1. And now we have 350 journals in this platform, and it's less expensive to provide in one single platform these websites than in 350 different websites. So it's a scalability solution that I decided to provide. At this time, I was alone with no budget, with no money. And now of course, I have a team, and it was not possible without a team.
But so you came up with the technical solution, but then it's another story to tell the world about that possibility and to convince people to actually have their journal using your platform. So how did you do that?
I was very young. I was 28 years old. I had no PhD, so when I met people, they say it won't work, or they say you will kill the paper, or they said the web is for pornography, for media, and not for serious scholarship. So it was a big fight, because people didn't believe me. But most of them didn't believe, but one by one, they said, oh, okay, it seems more realistic, it seems practical, it seems interesting, let's try it. So in 2 years, I had, I think, 9 journals. All were manually published online by me, without any database, without any code. And then I had some money from the French Ministry of Research. And that was the beginning of a new story, small story with 3 people with me. We were 4. And it was the same size and the same budget for many years, until 2007. So at this time, it was very difficult to stay on the race, because everybody said, now I want to create a portal of journals. So there was numerous initiatives, and nobody knew at this time which would succeed or which would fail. So it was difficult to convince institutions, but individual people were in fact convinced that they would not be able to avoid this internet solution. Many of them thought it would be rather better slow than fast. So they tried to wait, and I did exactly the opposite. I said, okay, let's try something, we will see if it works or not, if it's so dangerous for you or not.
And these first journals, were they in the humanities, essentially? What type of fields?
It's history, of course.
Okay.
History, and history of countryside. And then it was more and more history, because I was in this field. And then we had more geography, more sociology, more and more disciplines. And it was due to contact. When I have met one sociologist who agreed to join me, more sociologists, seeing the website, say, oh, I want the same thing, and they called me. So the main argument to convince people was not me speaking to them, but another sociologist showing them websites that was pretty efficient, highly visible on the web, and so on. And that was a better way to spread the word.
And there were focused journals with a rather specialized topic in general?
Yes, because there was less economic pressure. Because in France, journals, academic publishing is divided in 2. First, there is the private sector and then the public sector. And the private sector had the journals less specialized, with more selling opportunities. So they were reluctant to join me, and they decided to join a competitor some years later, which was more business oriented. And the public journals, more specialized, more focused, as we say, decided that they could join me, because it was not an economic commercial issue. It was a scientific and cultural issue. So now in France we have one portal with more private journals and one with more public journals.
Okay. Okay, so after revue.org, you had another venture, hypothèse.org.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. I had the idea in 2005 with a friend in Paris, and we thought about creating a place where scholars could exchange directly between together or with the general public. And that was the idea that it's very good to have journals, but it's an academic solution with many people between the writer and the reader. It means the publisher. The publisher is doing a very important job, but we needed more direct connection to the public, and that's called direct scientific communication. And one way to do that is to allow academic blogging. In France, we have a lot of initiatives from universities saying, okay, we open a platform for blogging in our university and you can blog there. You should blog there. And many of them have 1, 2 or 3 blogs. And they are Walking Dead platforms. Because it's not the good way to create a platform, because you see a president of your university saying, feel free to write what you want under my supervision. It's rather contradictory. So people are ashamed and say, oh no, I don't want to blog. It's not relevant because my career will not improve with that. But my president will see me and say, you are not allowed, you are allowed. You see, there is too much institutional pressure on that. So when we decided to create hypothesis.org, we decided not to say that we had this project to the president of our universities and of the CNRS, because we thought we had to create something very marginal, free and light. So we started like it with the name Hypothesis, because it's a place where you can try. You can try your hypothesis, and we open it essentially at the beginning for our journals that wanted to have a blog platform to publish more freely and more fast. And then we decided to make an hypothesis tool. An hypothesis tool is not a rock and roll star tool, but it's a scholar training session in different cities in France or outside France to explain what you can do, to show examples, and to train people in 2 or 3 hours. It's okay, it's really easy. And then we organize a scientific steering committee to select blogs. So we are sure that the blog inside Hypothesis are coming from the scholarly community. And then that's all. It was a simple idea, and now we have more than 500 blogs, and we have 3 new applications a day. So it's increasing very fast, and people feel free to have a discussion. We call it the academic conversation or the scholarly conversation, which is all in seminars, in fact. But the problem with seminars is that it's in a place and in a time. So you have only 10 people attending to the seminar, or 20, or 5 sometimes, or 50 sometimes. But it's lost for everybody. It's not the same in blogs. In blogs you can prepare your seminar and post your drafts, or after the seminar post some thoughts, and then 10 years later a man in Russia can discover what you thought at this time and make a connection with his own ideas. And that's very heuristic. It's obvious that this way of making the words that already that are oral, that you speak, written, and they can stay online for a day, long time. So it's very interesting to be accessible to people in other continents, other countries, and even other languages. And that's a part of the strategy in hypothesis.org. The strategy is to be open, not to only French-speaking blogs. So now we have partnerships with the Max Weber Foundation for the German-speaking community. The partnership with the university in Madrid to create a Spanish-speaking community. We want, of course, to have a Portuguese-speaking and English-speaking platform that we are on our way to create. That's a way to make the Europe of the European university is truly there, because they are not institutions, it's people speaking together.
So, would you say that Hypothesis is a bit an intermediary place? So you have academic journal, where, including revue.org, where there's a rather standard, maybe heavy reviewing process. You have blogs that scholars or anybody can open on their own names, on WordPress directly, for instance. And the difference with Hypothesis is that these blogs are recognized as academic blog. That would you say that this is the core difference?
There are some. It's a part of the difference. The first difference is that you agree. I agree. It's selected contents. Selected, not contents, people.
Okay.
From the academy. So when you come from nowhere, you are a student. You don't know which blog is reliable. You have a way to know that in hypothesis.org it's more reliable than elsewhere. That's the first one. The second point is that we have gained something very important, that maybe the ISSN is a single number dedicated to a journal. And now we have obtained that.
Okay.
So each blog has an ISSN, so it's already now a publication with a unique ID.
Excellent.
That's important. And the other point, the other difference is the visibility. When you are blogging in WordPress.com, of course you are inside a platform with millions of blogs, but you are inside, it's very difficult to know where you are, because you are between desperate housewives blogging and kitchen blogging and cooking blogging and so things like that. So you are invisible. In hypothesis.org, it's a place where a lot of contents, very specialized, from the university are shared. And we do selection not only of blogs, but also of contents. In the front page of hypothesis.org, you have only 10% or 5% of the content of Hypothesis. It's selected content from the steering committee. So when you go to Hypothesis, you have to read some interesting things always. And what our goal is exactly to create an academic, scholarly media. Not only devoted to scholars speaking to scholars, but also scholars speaking to the society. Because human and social sciences are deeply involved in contemporary debates and need of expertise and advices, knowledge, and so on. So today, the human and social sciences are considered as side disciplines. It's a poor disciplines with a lot of words, but not a lot of discoveries. And my conviction is that society needs this kind of disciplines, and the future of our societies is very deeply connected to the way that our disciplines will answer to the question asked by the societies, the politics, and the journalists, and so then the teachers, and every people that has to make a decision on a daily basis.
Excellent. Okay, so would you say that a master student, for instance, that is at the beginning of a potential academic career, should it start blogging right away? Should it wait? I mean, it could be a bit intimidating. I mean, when you see all these scholar blogs and you're kind of learning to be a scholar. I mean, at what point should you start blogging, and what would it be good for your career?
Okay, I would say I would recommend to start in WordPress.com with no name, with an anonymous blogging. Right. To make practices, exercises, and to discover how it could be interesting or not, and to make your blog known only by your friends and your teacher, and to have feedbacks from them. Because it's so highly visible that there is a risk of being naive and being publishing too fast and having not enough background to avoid mistakes. So it's so powerful that you have to learn before. So my thought about that is that teachers like you should train students to do that under his supervision. Yep. And I do that with my students in Marseille, and they have created a blog in hypothesis.org, which is called Monde du Livre. It means the world of books. And at the beginning, I give them instructions, and more during the months of the year, I give less and less instructions, and then they are free to publish by themselves. We need to learn. It's not. There is nothing in digital that is obvious. There is nothing that is without risk. So we have to learn it, and we have to learn human sciences, social sciences, and digital ways to do them.
So you would say that there is this anonymous period for a given number of time, possibly with supervision from a professor or an academic faculty, and then at some point you go in the light, and you feel maybe as a person, or maybe someone can tell you that the quality is sufficiently good, and then you start publishing on your own name and being a kind of public academic figure.
I did the same for me. So I blogged during 5 years in an anonymous way before creating my own personal blog. But it was in times where blogging was not really, had no good reputation. So I think now it's not necessary to wait so many years to start. But it's kind of risky. It's so powerful that you cannot consider nobody will see you, because my recommendation would not to never delete a post after publishing it. Mm-hmm. So if you behave like that, it will survive 10 or 20 years. So maybe you have to think twice before typing something and clicking on the publish button.
Okay. And just to finish, maybe what are your future projects? How do you see the future of revue.org and hypothesis.org maybe in 5 or 10 years? I mean, if you take like a slightly more long-term now view on your project.
We have a project until 2020.
Okay, that's good.
So I know what we want to do. So we have decided to create Open Edition, which is an umbrella for revue.org, calendar, hypothesis.org, and Open Edition books. That will be our next platform. So we will manage 4 platforms, and the big project for the next decade is to make Open Edition books a major platform, and to make hypothesis platform with, let's say, 6 or 7 languages as an equal rate. So now hypothesis is 20. I would say 80% of the platform is French. It was good since now, and now we need to make people speak together across the boundaries of language. and that will be very, very difficult to obtain. But I think it's a way to open the ears and the vision of people, especially in France, where the English language is not well taught and known. But I think there is an opportunity to make. The strategy is to make a European academic community, not language-based academic communities without connection together, except for one or two high-level professors. But I would say for everybody.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Marin.
Thank you very much.